Executive Vice President Virkkunen, hello again, thank you. You mentioned this a bit, but how is Europe investing in the digital skills for the competitiveness that we need?
Of course, when we speak about digitalization of our societies and technological competitiveness, education and skills, of course, it's basis for everything. So we need to have citizens who have, everybody should have basic digital skills. And now we see that we are not there where we should be. So we have set a target that in 2030, 80% of our citizens should have basic digital skills, but now we are currently only in 60%. In Croatia, you are doing better. So bigger percent of Croatian citizens are having digital skills, but also here there's differences between the areas and age groups. So this is something that where we have to focus, and we are working together, of course, with our member states, because education is very much competence of member states. But here it's also important to learn from the best practices. And with the European funding, we have been also funding with 400 million via Digital Europe, the digital skills part. And of course, member states like Croatia, you were also investing during the recovery and resilience funding, also very much to digitalization, 20% overall in Europe was allocated to that, and skills part was also very important here. But in the same time, when we speak about the basic digital skills that everybody should have nowadays, of course, we have to pay also attention to ICT experts, because there we are also now lagging behind. So we see clearly that we need also much more ICT experts. Of course, now also the skills needed are changing because technology is developing. AI has been replacing some of the work in ICT sector, like coding, for example. AI is able to do a lot of coding, but new kind of skills are needed. And that's why it's important that we are working very closely with our industry, with universities, also research institutions, educational institutions, to understand also that what kind of skills are needed in the future. And for that, we have also launched skills academies in different sectors now from the European Union side, like in cyber, we have now skills academy. It's the longest one, but then we have also several similar ones, for example, for AI and for virtual worlds. So we are also looking specific sectors where we have to work very closely with the industry, also to understand the need of the working life, that we are able to really give that kind of skills for our citizens which are needed. But with different programs, we are also able to support from the European Union side the skill development and investments, and in the same time, of course, it's a big part of the educational policy of each country.
Right. So you mentioned different funds, but how can we use those funds more effectively in order to turn those digital skills into the real advantage?
Of course, it's always very important when we are using public resources that we are doing it in most efficient way. But especially, I think, when we are speaking about digital skills and especially the ICT experts, here I see that it's very crucial to have very close cooperation with the working life. So with the industry, with the public sector, with those with the universities who need skilled workforce, that we are also able to understand that what are the future needs, that we are investing and educating people to right sectors, and we are also able to provide the right kind of skills. And of course, this is now a huge challenge when the technology is really developing very fast, to be able to also see that what kind of skills are now needed in the future. And that's why we have to have very, very close collaboration with all relevant stakeholders.
Minister Mikuš Žigman, Croatia has on the EU level been really recognized as a good example of the cohesion policy. And one of the priorities of this policy is precisely strengthening the economy through investments in research and development, innovation, and supporting business competitiveness. How has Croatia so far encouraged competitiveness and innovation?
Thank you. First of all, let me greet everybody here. It's a pleasure to be on this panel, actually, on this very important topic, because I think we should be discussing together how to boost the technological development and European competitiveness and productivity altogether. My answer will be actually more broad, as somebody who is coming from the ministry responsible for the European funds and also for the regional development, but okay, with focus on economic competitiveness and research and development. Thank you for the kind words. We indeed are good users of the cohesion policy, and the figures testimony to that, because over the last 10 years, if we look at the figures of GDP per capita in Croatia, compared to the European average, Croatia has grown actually from 61% to 78%. This is the latest available data. And the question is now, of course, how to move forward, because this is even maybe the more difficult part, how to move from 78 to over 80% of, and even more. Now, what have we done so far? Part of the programs that we have been using from Croatia's accession to the European Union have gone to the economic sector to either direct or indirect support for the economy. When I'm referring to direct support for the economic operators, a large part of that, in total, this was roughly 4.2 billion euros in the previous programs, plus the programs that we are implementing now. And around 1 billion of that has gone to the research and development. And with that, but these were direct funds, either in the form of grants or financial instruments, which are again attracting some more private capital from the market. And they have the added value of actually boosting the investment into the economy when they are coupled also with the finances from the financial institutions. But I'm sure that Marko will also add a couple of words on that as well. So what we try to promote there is investing into preparing our companies for participating in the internal market, in certification, in research and development, in new innovative companies who are actually growing on the market, but also creating the links between the businesses and research institutions, the academic sector, in order to create new products and services for the market, but also in order to basically commercialize the results of the research. And this has been quite successful. If you look now at the figures from 2016, where we had 0.85% of share of investment into the research and development as percentage of the GDP. Now we have gone to 1.39%. We are not fully satisfied with that, I have to say. We would like to have it even higher. So within the next program, we'll be working even further on investing into research, development, and commercialization, basically, of the new products on the market. Now, you also asked me about the business environment, because part of the program is also devoted to the reforms that facilitate a better business environment in Croatia. This is especially the case under the Recovery and Resilience program that Croatia has been implemented over the past years. And we are finalizing, actually, the Resilience and Recovery program this year. The results, again, are there in terms of some recent reports published by the World Bank. As you know, business report published by the World Bank has been terminated at a certain stage, but it has been replaced by the so-called B report, also issued by the World Bank. So I'm quite pleased to see that for 2025, Croatia has been ranked among more than 100 countries, among top 10 performers when it comes to the business environment. And this is certainly also due to the reforms that we have been implemented under the Recovery and Resilience program. Quite a good fact is that we take number one in facilitating international trade, which is also a result of the entry into the Schengen area, entry into the Eurozone, because certain conditions for the international trade have been facilitated, but also due to the reforms that we have implemented altogether.
Well, we talked about EU funding. Let's talk about private funding a bit more. So, Vice President Primorac, one of Europe's biggest challenges is turning excellent research into globally competitive companies. How can the EIB group help mobilize more private capital for scale-ups and strategic technologies?
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for inviting me and for giving me the chance to say a few words on behalf of the European Investment Bank. It's great to see so many people interested in these topics. I think it's not only quite relevant for Europe, but we are practically at the crossroads. If you see what's happening around the world in terms of geopolitical challenges and geoeconomic consequences, it is very important to have conferences like this to increase the awareness and also to make people understand why we are having certain measures as supporting different projects and initiatives throughout Europe. So first of all, Madam Vice President has already mentioned in her speech, and I would like to build on that, the importance of sovereignty also in tech and industry in general. And not only for isolation, not as to be perceived as isolation, as has been mentioned, but really a strategic autonomy. Because what we have seen in the past couple of years is that practically everything can be weaponized, from energy to supply chains to transport routes, recently in the Strait of Hormuz. So relying on supply sources and supply chains that are more reliable, more stable, closer to home is something that we are supposed to do. So in this sense, decreasing dependencies in Europe, also on technology, especially having in mind what's happening around the artificial intelligence. I think that everybody is following, at least to a certain extent, what happens with Anthropic, Mythos, and so on. Our reliance on these technologies and not having capacities to do something like that in Europe is something that is becoming increasingly dangerous. So for us, it's the main goal to make Europe capable of having these technologies, of innovating, but also scaling them in Europe and turning innovative ideas into companies that can increase the competitiveness in general, but also add to the GDP and employment and all those entrepreneurs. When it comes to the private capital and venture equity, practically startups and scale-ups stay in Europe, because for an economy as a European, it is really dangerous. And I would say there's nothing worse for the economy like ours to have innovative firms and entrepreneurs who have ideas. We have excellent researchers, great universities here. We are having this cooperation in many areas and supporting when it comes to startups. But then when it comes to scale-ups and going to the next level, next stage, those companies often leave Europe and try to seek financing in other parts of the world, and then bringing all these ideas and freshness and entrepreneurship with them, and then it practically stays and leaves Europe long term. So in this sense, from the European Investment Bank perspectives, we are having different initiatives that we have together with other stakeholders, including the Tech EU. And this is the platform that is about to mobilize not only our investments in terms of 70 billion euros in the next couple of years, but also crowd in other private investors to scale up to 250 billion euros, which is something that could add to filling the gap that Madam Vice President has mentioned. In this sense, investing in companies that are really tech champions on European continent. We have also different instruments. For example, the European Tech Champions Initiative. We are having the facility, or I would say the edition number 2, which is just being fundraised. So as we speak here, the finance ministers gather in Brussels for the ECOFIN Council and the Eurogroup. And we will participate also. The Croatia will show a commitment in terms of, first of all, the political will, in terms of signing the declaration that Croatia supports the initiative like that. And we also expect private investors to jump in and to mobilize capital. So when it comes to EIB financing, we try not to crowd out other investors. We try to be, as an anchor investor, practically giving a seal, stamp of quality, if you wish, and then try to crowd in others and to mobilize private capital, which is quite essential because the gap has been quite extensive. And it would be hard to fill it by national budgets, by bank financing. So we really need to mobilize private capital. So in this sense, Also, the Capital Markets Union or Savings and Investments Union is something that we try to support through our initiatives in EIB.
Thank you.
I feel, Vice President, that you've already kind of answered my question, but we wanted to talk about the priorities for the European Investment Bank in terms of helping the European Union in achieving the tech sovereignty that we are discussing today. So maybe if you could, let's just be a bit more concrete, if you could point out, besides financing, which is obviously the most obvious question, answer, where do you think the European Investment Bank can have the greatest impact in achieving this sovereignty, let's say in the next 5 years?
Sure. We can go even deeper into financing because there is a lot to say on that. We really have a lot of tools in our portfolio. So when it comes to the European Investment Bank Group in general, we consist of two pillars or two institutions in a way. So it's the bank that is providing lending to governments, to SOEs, to local government units, but also enterprises in general. We finance projects. And then there is also the European Investment Fund, which invests into equity. And this is something that is really worth mentioning here. So when we talk about the European Tech Champions Initiative, and this is the initiative that is trying to mobilize significant resources, first of all, 15 billion euros, including member states' contributions, but also private capital, so to come altogether to 70 billion euros. We are practically talking about fund of funds. So ETCI, European Tech Champions Initiative, is a fund, really big fund, that is investing in other funds who then invest into firms that have the biggest potential for development and developing any, technological, so to say, initiatives. So in this sense, quite strategic and quite important for Europe, be it in artificial intelligence, digitalization, quantum computing, advanced manufacturing, clean tech in this sense as well. So this is something that we propose and that we do through different instruments. There is also the advisory arm of the European Investment Bank. So we also try to support firms and to build the whole ecosystems, if you wish, in private equity and venture capital, also present in Croatia, but other parts of Europe as well. The European Tech Champions Initiative, just to give you a flavor of what we have achieved with the first edition, we have invested in 14 funds and then through them practically invested in 11 unicorns in Europe. So it really shows how mobilizing private capital in this sense can be productive and constructive in terms of keeping firms that might be either seeking capital or being taken over by some other companies which are not necessarily from our continent. So how we can add to the sovereignty aspect.
Okay, thank you.
Minister Mikuš Žigman, we mentioned this earlier, but I want to talk about Croatia especially. An important part of investments from EU funds in the context of strengthening competitiveness also relates to skills development, smart specialization, strengthening the education system and lifelong learning. Croatia has much to be proud, but also we have a lot of place for improvement. What do you see in the near future?
As you said, human capital is actually one of the key elements if we want to boost both productivity and competitiveness, and this is our common goal at the level of the European Union. So in this context, it's a wide topic, but I will concentrate here on something that relates to lifelong learning, to adult education, and to reskilling, because I think we need to be quick in transforming our skills if we really want to respond to the ever-changing needs of the labor market. We know that. So in this context, I would just briefly mention two initiatives, one from the Ministry of Science and Education, and the other one from the Ministry of Labor, which show how through the careful design of the voucher scheme we can actually quickly achieve some results. So the first one is the scheme designed by the Ministry of Education, which actually targets attaining the micro qualifications. So people would not actually go through the full educational cycle. It would not take a long time to obtain the qualification, but rather be trained in micro qualifications where there is a need to respond quickly to some specific needs from the labor market. So we have designed the voucher scheme for that. The government is supporting fully the acquisition of the micro qualifications. Some 29,000 of people have gone through the system, and the good result that is coming out of that, again speaking about the figures and the percentages, back in 2021 we had some 5.1% of the adults participating in lifelong learning. Due to the scheme implemented, now 5 years later, we have 39% of the adults participating in the lifelong education, which I think is quite a significant goal achieved. The second one, also based on the voucher scheme, because vouchers have demonstrated to be really quick for the absorption, easy for the absorption, easy to use, flexible in terms of delivery of what they need to do. Is the scheme designed by the Ministry of Labor, also intended for unemployed people, but also the employed people who would like to change their job and to maybe open their own company. So this was actually a flagship project under the Resilience and Recovery Program, worth 60 million euros, through which almost 65 vouchers have been provided to the people who could independently select what kind of program they would like to attend. So again, we are speaking about some sort of micro qualifications. They were targeted initially to digital and green skills, but then extended according to the needs of the labor market. And again, 84% of the people who went through the scheme have managed to find a job within 3 to 4 months, or to change the job, or to open their own enterprise. Even this project was included in the 3 projects that are now candidates for the European award, the so-called European Oscar, when it comes to the innovative practices of the public service. So I think we can be proud even of the fact that the administration has designed something that is now actually qualifying as something which is innovative project in the public administration sphere.
Madam Vice President, we've been warned that you have a very strict schedule. So actually the clock that we all see here is completely wrong. And we have just a couple of more minutes, so to wrap up and finalize, we would like to see, ask you, where do you see the greatest opportunity for Croatia, specifically in terms of the latest progress report that was just published in June? What would be your message to Croatians?
You know, when I look at the technologies, of course, I see that Croatia is having potential, I think, in all our critical fields. Because for example, when I have been here now, I have met the stakeholders who have been representing cybersecurity, also AI community, chips design, also quantum technologies. So all these key technologies, what we are speaking about now when we speak about our critical technologies and our own competitiveness and capacity here, I see that Croatian, of course, stakeholders, they can contribute to all these areas. Often the challenge is for us in Europe that we are excellent in research. We have very strong scientific basis, and we are creating great innovations. But now we have to really make sure that these innovations, they are able to come to the markets in Europe, and also our companies are able to scale up in Europe. And especially, for example, when we look AI, we have huge potential in Europe. I think it's important to underline that we have more AI researchers, more AI engineers than anyone in the world in Europe. And also we have huge potential in our startups. Totally we have more than 45,000 startups in Europe, many of them located in Croatia. 8,000 of them are focusing to training and developing AI. And one big obstacle for them has been that we don't have computing capacity enough, because we don't have that kind of big tech companies companies like, for example, USA. And that's why together with our member states, we are now investing to 19 AI factories, really to open up the computing capacity, not only for our researchers, but also for our startups. And I'm very happy also that now Croatia is also working with its own national AI factory, and also government has decided, as we heard, also to contribute to our Gigafactories initiative. So I think it's very important also to build this infrastructure that our startups are able really to now develop and train AI based to European content, to European values. And in the same time, it's important to continue to work with our financial institutions and with our member states really to create better opportunities to have access to finance, because this is one of the obstacles for many of our companies, that when they want to scale up their businesses, they are moving away from Europe because difficulties to have financing. And then also we still have too many barriers between the member states, so we have to really use the full potential of single market. And here also, I think for the Croatian companies, it's a great opportunity now when hopefully very soon our co-legislators, European Parliament Council, will adopt our initiative about EU company law, so-called EU Inc., that you could establish digitally your company anywhere in Europe in one member state, and you are able to operate in all member states under one company law. So it's very much simplifying the processes and making it easier for the small companies also to operate in all our member states. So I think many initiatives are now in pipeline, but now we have to really work with speed and act together. But I'm very confident that we have everything what is needed to be successful. And I know that Croatia and your companies will be a very important contributor on this.
Thank you, all of you, dear panelists. Thank you for your insights and your comments. It was a pleasure to have you. We will have a break of 45 minutes now. Thank you so much for staying with us so far.
See you back at 4 o'clock.